And the storm will not stop until the threat is ended. She sat down. The hall re the day Earth deployed its hurricane-class battleship. Part 5. The New Order. 1 week had passed since the Battle of New Bizen. The fires on the planet were finally dying out. The rescue operations had saved nearly all of the 2 million survivors. Relief ships from Earth had arrived with enough supplies to last for months. The rebuilding had begun. Captain Taiho stood on the observation deck of the Hurricane, looking down at the wounded world below. The scars would take years to heal. Some would never heal at all. But life was returning. Hope was returning. Lieutenant Minji found him there, standing alone in the quiet darkness. She had been working nonstop since the battle, keeping the ship running, coordinating repairs, managing the crew. She was exhausted, but she refused to rest. "Captain," she said, "Admiral Yuna is on the line. She wants to speak with you." Taiho nodded and activated his communicator. "Admiral, what news?" Yuna's voice was calm but heavy with significance. "The Galactic Assembly has reached a decision. They have officially recognized humanity as a major power. They are granting us 3 seats on the Security Council. They are also demanding that we never build another Hurricane-class vessel." Taiho laughed quietly. "And what was our response?" Ambassador Zujin told them that we would consider their request. She did not promise anything. "Good," Taiho smiled. "Let them wonder. Let them worry. Uncertainty is a weapon too." He ended the call and turned back to the window. Below, he could see the lights of temporary shelters spreading across New Bizen's surface. 2 million people were down there, sleeping in tents and makeshift buildings, dreaming of the homes they had lost. But they were alive. That was what mattered. On Earth, the reaction to the battle had been complicated. Some people celebrated the victory. They held parades in the streets and sang songs about the Hurricane and its brave crew. They were proud of what humanity had accomplished. Others were more thoughtful. They understood that the galaxy had changed forever. Earth was no longer invisible. Earth was no longer safe in its obscurity. The Hurricane had announced humanity's presence in the loudest possible way. Now every empire, every civilization, every alien race knew what Earth could do. Some of them would be afraid. Some of them would be angry. Some of them would want revenge. The Earth Council met in emergency session to discuss the future. Councilwoman Yumbi, who had voted to deploy the Hurricane, spoke first. "We have achieved a great victory," she said, "but we must be careful now. The galaxy is watching. Every move we make will be analyzed. Every word we speak will be remembered. We must show strength, but we must also show wisdom." Councilman Himu disagreed. "We should build more ships. We should build 100 Hurricanes. We should make ourselves so powerful that no one would ever dare threaten us again." "And how would we pay for that?" asked Councilwoman Sora. "The Hurricane took a century to build. It consumed resources from every nation on Earth. We cannot repeat that process easily." The debate continued for hours. In the end, they reached a compromise. Earth would maintain the Hurricane as a deterrent, but would not attempt to build more unless directly threatened. They would seek diplomatic solutions whenever possible. They would try to join the galactic community as a respected member. Not a feared tyrant. It was a delicate balance. Power and restraint. Strength and wisdom. Humanity would have to walk that line carefully in the years to come. The Volta Empire did not attack again. Emperor Vorith made angry speeches about revenge and honor, but he took no action. His military advisors had explained the situation clearly. Any attack on Earth would fail. The Hurricane was too powerful. Their best chance was to wait, to watch, to learn. Maybe someday they would find a weakness. Maybe someday they would have their revenge, but not today. Not this year. Not this decade. The other empires of the galaxy reacted in different ways. Some sought alliances with Earth, hoping to benefit from humanity's newfound power. Some retreated into isolation, terrified of what the humans might do next. Some began secret research programs, trying to develop weapons that could match the Hurricane. The galaxy was entering a new era. The old order was crumbling. The comfortable balance of power that had lasted for millennia was gone. In its place was uncertainty, possibility, and the shadow of a black ship that could destroy fleets in minutes. On the Hurricane, the crew began the long journey home. Their mission was complete. New Bizan was safe. The Velta were defeated. It was time to return the ship to its hiding place beneath the moon dot. Captain Taiho walked through the corridors one last time, saying goodbye to the vessel that had served them so well. He passed the engine room where Minji had worked miracles. He passed the medical bay where Dr. Dijin had prepared for casualties they never suffered. He passed the weapons bay where Commander Jizu had conducted her deadly symphony. These corridors would be empty soon. The crew would return to their normal lives. They would be celebrated as heroes, promoted to higher ranks, given medals and honors. But they would also carry the weight of what they had done. 300 ships destroyed. Thousands of Velta soldiers killed. Even enemy lives had value. Taiho hoped they had done the right thing. He believed they had. The Velta had started the war. The Velta had killed innocent people. The Velta had needed to be stopped. But still, the weight of command was heavy. He reached the bridge and found Ensign Do-hyun waiting for him. The young officer looked different now. Older, wiser. War had a way of changing people. "Captain," Do-hyun said, "I wanted to thank you for giving me a chance, for trusting me." Taiho smiled. "You earned that trust. You did good work. Do you think we will need the Hurricane again?" Do-hyun asked. Taiho considered the question. "I hope not. But hope is not a strategy. We will keep the ship ready. We will keep the crew trained. And if the galaxy threatens us again, we will respond." The Hurricane dropped out of hyperspace near Earth's moon. The secret base awaited, its hangar doors open like welcoming arms. The ship descended slowly, gracefully, returning to its place of rest. The crew disembarked and watched as the massive doors closed behind the Hurricane. The ship would sleep again, its weapons dark, its engines silent. But it would not sleep forever. It would always be there, waiting, ready. Admiral Yuna met them outside the base. She looked at Taiho with pride in her eyes. "You did well, Captain. Your ancestors would be proud." "Thank you, Admiral. I hope we made the right choices." "There are no perfect choices in war," Yuna replied. "There is only survival. You kept our people alive. You protected our world. That is enough." 1 year later, a memorial was built on New Bizan. It stood at the center of what had once been the capital city, rising from the ashes like a promise of renewal. On its surface were carved the names of everyone who had died in the attack. 10 million names written in stone, never to be forgotten. Ambassador Sujin gave the dedication speech. She spoke of loss and grief, but also of hope and resilience. She spoke of the survivors who were rebuilding their lives, the children who were growing up in a world scarred but not broken. "We remember the dead," she said, "but we also celebrate the living. We honor the past, but we look toward the future. Humanity has faced darkness before. We have always found our way back to the light." She paused and looked up at the sky, at the stars that had once seemed so peaceful and now seemed so dangerous. "The galaxy knows who we are now. They know what we can do. Some of them fear us. Some of them hate us. But we will not apologize for surviving. We will not apologize for being strong. We will continue to build, to grow, to reach for the stars. And we will defend ourselves whenever necessary." Her final words echoed across the silent crowd. The Hurricane sleeps, but it does not forget. We sleep, but we do not forget. And if anyone threatens us again, they will remember this day. They will remember what humanity can do when pushed. They will remember the day we deployed the hurricane. The crowd applauded. Above them, unseen, a small satellite transmitted the ceremony to every corner of the galaxy. Billions of beings watched Ambassador Sujin speak. Billions of beings heard her warning. The old galaxy was dead. A new galaxy was being born. And at its heart, a small blue planet called Earth was shining brighter than it ever had before. The hurricane was sleeping. But the galaxy would never recover from the day it woke up. And somewhere deep inside that ship, resting in the darkness beneath the moon, a single light blinked steadily. The heart of the hurricane still beating, still waiting, still ready for the next storm. The humans had spoken. The galaxy had listened. And nothing would ever be the same. The day Earth deployed its hurricane-class battleship. Part 4. Directing the news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Every communication network, every news channel, every whispered conversation in every bar on every space station told the same story. Earth had destroyed the Velta fleet. One ship, 300 enemies. 40 minutes. On the bridge of the hurricane, Ensign Do-hyun monitored the galactic communications. He was young, just 23 years old, fresh from the academy. His job was to listen to the galaxy and report anything important. Today, everything was important. "Captain," he said, his voice filled with wonder, "the entire galaxy is talking about us. Every species, every empire. They are all afraid." Taiho walked over to stand beside him. "Show me." Do-hyun played a selection of intercepted transmissions. The first was from the Velta homeworld. Their emperor was screaming at his generals, demanding to know how this had happened. He was threatening executions. He was calling for immediate revenge. But beneath the anger, Taiho could hear fear. The second transmission was from the Corvan Republic, an old and powerful civilization that had always looked down on humanity. Their council was in emergency session, debating whether to strengthen their defenses. One council member suggested forming an alliance against Earth. Another said that any alliance would be meaningless against a weapon like the hurricane. The third transmission was from the Galactic Assembly itself. The Assembly was supposed to maintain peace in the galaxy. They had promised to protect humanity. They had failed. Now they were scrambling to respond. "The humans have broken the treaties," one delegate argued. "They were forbidden from building warships. They were also promised protection," another replied. "We failed them. Can we blame them for protecting themselves?" The debate went on and on. No conclusion was reached. The Assembly had always been slow to act. Today, that slowness was mixed with something new. Uncertainty. Taiho listened to it all with a grim expression. He had no sympathy for the Assembly. They had left New Bizen to burn. They had watched 12 million people die. Their words meant nothing to him now. "Continue monitoring," he told Do-hyun. "Report anything that seems like a direct threat." Down on New Bizen, the rescue operations were in full swing. Shuttles from the hurricane landed near the underground shelters where survivors had hidden. Medical teams rushed to help the wounded. Engineers began assessing the damage. Dr. Yejin led one of the medical teams. She had trained for battlefield medicine, but nothing had prepared her for what she found. The survivors were traumatized beyond words. Many of them had watched their families die. Many of them had injuries that would never fully heal. Some were so damaged psychologically that they could not speak. She found a young boy sitting alone in a corner of one shelter. He was maybe 8 years old. His clothes were torn and burned. His eyes were empty. "Hello," Yejin said softly, kneeling beside him. "My name is Yejin. I am a doctor from Earth. Can you tell me your name? The boy stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he spoke. Himen. My name is Himen. Where is my mother? Yejin's heart broke. She did not know where his mother was. She might be in another shelter. She might be among the wounded. She might be dead. There was no way to know yet. We are looking for everyone, she said gently. We will find your mother if she is here. I promise we will try. Himen nodded. He did not cry. He had no tears left. He just sat there, a child who had seen too much, who had lost too much. Yejin made a decision. She contacted the hurricane and requested a priority search for the boy's mother. It was a small thing in the middle of such massive tragedy. But small things mattered. Individual lives mattered. That was what made humanity different from the Velta. Back in orbit, Captain Taiho received reports from the surface. The damage was worse than they had feared. 80% of the planet's infrastructure was destroyed. The agricultural systems that had fed the colony were gone. Water treatment plants were wrecked. Power stations were burning. New Bizin would need years to recover. Maybe decades. The Velta had not just attacked a colony. They had tried to destroy a world. Earth is sending a relief fleet, Admiral Yuna reported over the communication channel. 50 ships loaded with supplies. They will arrive in 2 days. Good, Taiho replied. We will need everything they can bring. How are you holding up? Yuna asked. Her voice was gentle. She knew what he was going through. Taiho paused before answering. I keep thinking about what would have happened if we had been faster. If we had left an hour earlier. If the hurricane had not been sleeping. How many people could we have saved? You cannot think like that, Yuna said. You saved 2 million people today. You stopped the attack. You showed the galaxy that humanity will not be victimized. That matters, does it? Taiho asked. 10 million people are still dead. Yes, and that is a tragedy. But you did not cause that tragedy. The Velta did. Remember who the real enemy is. Taiho nodded slowly. She was right. The guilt he felt was natural, but it was misplaced. He had done everything he could. He had arrived as fast as possible. He had stopped the massacre. But he made another promise to himself. The Velta would pay for what they had done. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. Justice would come for them. On the Velta homeworld, the Empire was in chaos. News of the defeat had reached every corner of their civilization. The people were terrified. Their fleet had been invincible for 1,000 years. Now it was gone. Emperor Varth sat on his throne and listened to his advisors argue. Some wanted to launch a massive counterattack. Build 1,000 ships. Send them all to Earth. Destroy the humans before they could strike again. Others counseled caution. The hurricane was too powerful. Any attack would fail. They needed time to study the human weapon, to find its weaknesses, to develop countermeasures. We have no time, Varth growled. Every moment we wait, the humans grow stronger. Every moment we wait, our enemies see our weakness. We must act now. If we act now, we will die, his oldest advisor said. That ship destroyed 300 of our best vessels without taking damage. What can we possibly send against it? The Emperor had no answer. For the first time in his long reign, he was facing a problem he could not solve with force. He was facing an enemy he could not intimidate. Across the galaxy, other empires were having similar discussions. The balance of power had shifted overnight. Earth, which had been considered a minor civilization, was now the most powerful force in known space. No one knew how many ships like the Hurricane they had. No one knew what other secrets they were hiding. The Galactic Assembly called an emergency session. Every member species sent representatives. Even races that had not attended in centuries made the journey. This was too important to ignore. The assembly hall was filled with thousands of delegates from hundreds of worlds. They spoke in dozens of languages, translated by sophisticated computers. The noise was overwhelming, but gradually, order was restored. The assembly president, an ancient being from a species that had lived for millions of years, called for silence. We are gathered here to discuss the Earth situation. The humans have revealed a weapon of unprecedented power. We must decide how to respond. Delegate after delegate spoke. Some called for sanctions against Earth. Some called for military action. Some called for negotiation. Some called for surrender. The debate went on for hours, with no clear direction. Finally, a human voice cut through the noise. Ambassador Sujin had been sitting quietly in the Earth delegation section, listening to the chaos. Now she stood and requested permission to speak. The assembly hall fell silent. Every eye turned to her. Every sensor focused on her face. This was the moment they had all been waiting for. Distinguished delegates, Sujin began, her voice steady and clear. I understand your fear. I understand your confusion. What happened today has changed everything you thought you knew about the galaxy. Allow me to explain. She took a deep breath. 150 years ago, humanity was promised protection by this assembly. We were told to disarm. We were told that peace was eternal. We believed you. We trusted you. Our voice grew harder. But some of us remembered history. Some of us remembered that peace is never eternal. Some of us knew the promises made by assemblies are often broken. So we prepared. In secret, in silence. We built the hurricane and we hid it away, hoping we would never need it. She paused, letting her words sink in. Yesterday, 12 million of our people died because you failed to protect them. The Velta attacked our colony, and you did nothing. You watched our children burn, and you did nothing. The assembly hall was completely silent. Not a single delegate spoke. Not a single being moved. So do not speak to us of treaties, Sujin continued. Do not speak to us of violations. You violated your promises first. You failed us first. The hurricane exists because you cannot be trusted. She looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of dozens of alien species. But we are not like you. We do not want war. We do not want conquest. We want only to live in peace, to protect our people, to build a better future. Today, we proved that we can defend ourselves. We hope that is enough. We hope you will leave us alone. Her final words echoed through the hall. But if you threaten us again, if you attack our people again, if you try to hurt our children again, then you will face the storm. The day Earth deployed its Hurricane-class battleship. Part 3. The storm begins. The battle had been going for 20 minutes. In that time, the Hurricane had destroyed 60 Velta ships. 60 warships that had taken decades to build, crewed by thousands of soldiers, armed with weapons that could destroy cities. Gone in 20 minutes. Commander Jisoo stood at her station, her fingers dancing across the controls. She was directing the gravity cannons with deadly precision. Each shot found its target. Each target ceased to exist. She had dreamed of this moment for years, wondering if she would ever get to use the weapons she had studied for so long. Now she was using them, and they were even more powerful than she had imagined. Dreadnought cluster at bearing 270, she announced. 5 ships in formation. Take them, Captain Taiho ordered. Jisoo pressed the firing sequence. The Hurricane's main cannon charged for half a second, then released a beam of pure gravitational force. The beam hit the center ship first. The ship collapsed instantly, crushed by forces that bent the fabric of space itself. The collapse created a wave of gravitational distortion that spread to the other 4 ships. They were pulled toward the center, smashing into each other, crumpling together into a single mass of twisted metal. 5 targets destroyed, Jisoo reported. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking slightly. Not from fear, from excitement. On the sensor screen, Lieutenant Hana tracked the remaining Battleships. 235 left. They were trying to regroup, trying to form new attack patterns. But every time they gathered, the hurricane would pick them apart. They are attempting a flanking maneuver, Hana said. 70 ships moving to surround us. Taiho studied the tactical display. The Velta were learning. They had realized that direct attacks were useless. Now they were trying to spread out, to attack from all sides at once. It was a smart strategy. It would have worked against any normal ship, but the Hurricane was not a normal ship. Minji, activate the secondary batteries, Taiho commanded. Lieutenant Minji grinned. With pleasure, Captain. Along the hull of the Hurricane, hundreds of smaller weapons came online. They were not as powerful as the main gravity cannons, that they did not need to be. They were faster, able to track multiple targets at once. They were designed for exactly this situation. The secondary batteries opened fire. Beams of energy shot out in all directions, creating a web of destruction around the Hurricane. The Velta ships flying in from the flanks ran straight into the barrage. Explosions bloomed across the darkness of space. Ships fell by the dozen. Inside one of the Velta cruisers, a young officer named Kara watched in horror as the human ship tore through her fleet. She had joined the Navy to see the galaxy, to have adventures, to make her family proud. She had never expected to die. How is this possible? She asked her commander. How can one ship do this? The commander did not answer. He was too busy screaming orders that no one could follow. Their weapons were useless. Their shields were meaningless. They were fighting a monster, and the monster was winning. Kara made a decision. She was not going to die here. She ran to an escape pod and launched herself into space. Behind her, her ship exploded in a flash of twisted gravity. She floated in her tiny pod, watching the battle continue, praying that the humans would not notice her. Back on the Hurricane, Taiho received a report from the medical bay. Dr. Yejin informed him that they had taken no casualties. Not a single crew member injured. The Velta attacks had not even scratched the paint on their hull. How is that possible? Taiho asked. The shields are more advanced than we knew, Minji explained. They do not just block attacks. They absorb the energy and redirect it back to our power systems. The more they shoot at us, the stronger we become. Taiho shook his head in amazement. His ancestors had truly been geniuses. They had built a ship that could not just survive enemy attacks, but use them as fuel. It was almost unfair, almost. He thought about New Bizen below. He thought about the millions who had died. There was nothing unfair about what he was doing. This was justice. Focus fire on their flagship, he ordered. Let us end this. The Velta flagship was the largest ship in their fleet. It was called the Conqueror, and it had earned its name through 100 victories. Admiral Torak commanded it from a bridge filled with the finest technology his empire could provide. He had believed it was invincible. He was wrong. The Hurricane turned toward the Conqueror. Its main cannon charged with a deep humming sound that seemed to vibrate through space itself. On the Velta bridge, every alarm screamed at once. All power to shields, Torak commanded. All power now. The Conqueror's shields flickered to maximum strength. They were the strongest shields in the Velta Navy, capable of blocking weapons that could crack planets. They glowed with protective energy, a barrier that had never been broken. The Hurricane fired. The gravity beam hit the Conqueror's shields and pushed through them like they were not there. The beam struck the hull. The massive ship began to crumple, folding in on itself from the point of impact. Torak had one moment to realize what was happening before his world collapsed around him. The Conqueror was destroyed. The flagship of the Velta invasion fleet, home to 20,000 soldiers, command center for the entire operation. Gone in an instant, the remaining Velta ships stopped fighting. Some of them tried to run. Some of them sent surrender signals. Some of them just floated in space, their crews too shocked to do anything at all. Should we pursue the runners? Jizu asked. Taeho thought about it. He could destroy them all. Every single Velta ship could be wiped out in the next hour. His crew could do it. His ship was capable, but he was not a monster. He was not like them. No, he said. Let them run. Let them tell their empire what happened here. Let them spread the word about what humanity can do. He opened a channel to all Velta ships. This is Captain Taiho of the Earth vessel Hurricane. Your flagship is destroyed. Your fleet is broken. You have two choices. Surrender and be taken prisoner, or run and never return. Any ship that continues to fight will be destroyed. Any ship that attacks New Bizen again will be destroyed. You have 5 minutes to decide. The response was immediate. Ships began jumping to hyperspace, fleeing as fast as their engines could carry them. Others powered down their weapons and raised surrender flags. Within 5 minutes, not a single Velta ship remained in fighting condition. The battle was over. The Hurricane had won, but Taiho felt no joy. He looked down at New Bizen and saw the fires still burning. He saw the destroyed cities, the dead oceans, the scarred continents. The Velta had been stopped, but they had already done so much damage. Scan the surface, he ordered. Find survivors. Lieutenant Hannah worked her sensors. The readings came back slowly, complicated by the smoke and debris in the atmosphere. But gradually, a picture emerged. There are survivors, she reported, scattered across the northern continent. Maybe 2 million people. They appear to be hiding in underground shelters. 2 million. Out of 12 million. Taiho closed his eyes and took a deep breath. 10 million people had died while the Hurricane was sleeping. 10 million innocent lives lost because the galaxy had believed humanity was weak. Never again, he promised himself. Never again. Send shuttles, he ordered. Medical teams, food, supplies, everything we have. And contact Earth. Tell them New Bizen needs help. The crew moved quickly. Shuttles launched from the Hurricane's bays, carrying hope down to a wounded world. Medical personnel prepared to treat survivors. Engineers got ready to help rebuild. Outside, the wreckage of the Velta fleet drifted through space. 300 ships reduced to floating debris. The greatest military force in the sector destroyed by a single vessel. And across the galaxy, every species with access to sensors was watching. They had seen the battle. They had seen the power of the Hurricane. They had seen what humanity could do when threatened. The quiet planet called Earth was quiet no more. And the galaxy would never be the same. Commander Jisu approached Taiho quietly. Captain, you should know something. Our sensors detected transmissions during the battle. The entire galaxy was watching. The Galactic Assembly, the other empires, everyone. Taiho nodded slowly. Good. Let them watch. Let them see. Let them understand that humanity is not to be threatened. Not now. Not ever. He looked out at the stars, at the vast galaxy that had ignored his people for so long. The rules had changed today. The balance of power had shifted. And somewhere out there, in throne rooms and council chambers across 1,000 worlds, aliens were looking at Earth with new eyes. The storm had come, and it was only beginning. The day Earth deployed its Hurricane-class battleship. Part 1. The Awakening. The message came at 3 in the morning. Earth Standard Time. Admiral Yuna was sleeping in her small apartment in Seoul when her communicator screamed to life. She opened her eyes and knew immediately that something terrible had happened. In her 30 years of service, She had never heard that particular alarm. It was the sound reserved for only one thing: an attack on a human colony. She dressed quickly and ran to her transport. The streets of Seoul were empty and quiet. The city lights reflected off the wet roads from earlier rain. Yuna did not notice any of it. Her mind was already racing through possibilities, through scenarios, through the faces of people she knew on the colony worlds. The Earth Defense Headquarters was a massive building buried deep underground. When Yuna arrived, she found chaos. Officers ran from station to station. Screens displayed maps of distant star systems. Voices shouted over each other in a dozen different languages. At the center of it all stood General Juno, his face pale and his hands shaking. What happened? Yuna asked. Junho turned to look at her. His eyes were red. New Bizin, he said. The Volta Empire attacked 3 hours ago. They came with everything they had. Yuna felt her blood turn cold. New Bizin was a peaceful colony. Farmers and fishermen, mostly. Families who had left Earth looking for a quiet life among the stars. 12 million people lived there. 12 million innocent people. Casualties? She asked. We do not know yet. Communications are down. But our satellites picked up the attack. They hit the major cities first. Then the smaller towns. Then the farms. Junho paused. His voice broke. They are still hitting them. Yuna closed her eyes. She thought of the children, the old people, the families sitting down for dinner when the sky turned to fire. She thought of her own niece, who had moved to New Bizin just last year with her husband. Why? She asked. We have no conflict with the Volta. They say we do. Junho handed her a tablet. On it was a message from the Volta High Command. The words were simple and cruel. Humanity had expanded too far. Humanity had taken resources that belonged to the Volta. Humanity needed to be taught its place in the galaxy. Yuna read the message twice. Then she set the tablet down carefully on the table. Her hands were steady now. Her fear had transformed into something else. Something harder. Something colder. How many ships do they have? She asked. 300 warships in orbit around New Bizin. More coming from their home system. And our fleet? Junho laughed, but there was no humor in it. 40 ships. All of them outdated. The Galactic Assembly told us we did not need a military. They said they would protect us. They lied. Yuna nodded slowly. For 200 years, humanity had believed the Assembly's promises. They had believed that the galaxy was peaceful. They had believed that their alien neighbors wanted friendship. They had been fools, but not complete fools. Call a meeting of the council, Yuna said. All members. Emergency session. We need to discuss our options. What options? Junho asked. We cannot fight 300 ships. We cannot even slow them down. Yuna looked at him for a long moment. Then she leaned close and whispered something in his ear. Junho's eyes went wide. The color returned to his face. He stared at her as if she had just told him the dead could walk. That is real? He whispered. I thought it was just a story. A myth. It is very real, Yuna said. And it is time the galaxy learned the truth about humanity. 2 hours later, the Earth Council gathered in their secret chamber. 11 men and women sat around a circular table. They represented every nation and every people on Earth. Some were old. Some were young. All of them looked afraid. Yuna stood before them and told them about New Bizin. She showed them the footage from the satellites. Cities burning. Ships falling from the sky. People running through the streets with nowhere to go. The council watched in silence. Some of them cried. Some of them prayed. One of them, a man named Hyunwoo, slammed his fist on the table and demanded revenge. We cannot defeat them, said Councilwoman Umbi. She was the oldest member, her hair white and her face lined with wrinkles. "Our fleet is too small. Our weapons are too weak. If we fight, we will lose everything. Then we surrender?" Hianwu shouted. "We let them kill our people? We bow to these monsters?" "I did not say that," Yunbi replied calmly. "I said our current fleet cannot win, but we have other options." All eyes turned to her. Yunbi smiled a small, sad smile. She looked at Yuna and nodded. Yuna pressed a button on her controller. The lights dimmed. A hologram appeared above the table. It showed a ship unlike anything the Council had seen before. It was massive, dark. Its surface was covered in weapons that defied understanding. It looked less like a ship and more like a predator waiting to strike. "This is the Hurricane," Yuna said. "It has been sleeping inside Earth's moon for 150 years. We built it in secret. We built it in fear. We built it because some of us always knew this day would come." The Council stared at the hologram in stunned silence. "The Assembly told us to disarm," Yuna continued. "They told us peace was eternal. But our ancestors did not believe them. They remembered Earth's history. They remembered war. They knew that peace is never eternal. So they built the Hurricane and hid it away, waiting for the day humanity would need it." "Can it really fight 300 ships?" Hyunwoo asked. Yuna turned off the hologram. "The Hurricane was not built to fight 300 ships," she said. "It was built to destroy 300 ships. There's a difference." The vote was quick. 10 in favor, 1 against. Councilwoman Sora voted no because she feared what would happen after. She feared what humanity would become. But she was outvoted, and she accepted the decision with grace. Admiral Yuna left the chamber with orders in her hand. Orders signed by the Council. Orders that would change the history of the galaxy forever. She took a shuttle to the moon. The journey was quiet. She spent it looking at pictures of New Bizen from before the attack. Green fields, blue oceans, children playing in parks. A world that might already be dead. The shuttle landed at a secret base, hidden in a crater. Yuna walked through corridors that had not seen footsteps in decades. Dust covered everything. The air was stale and old. But the power still worked. The computers still hummed. The Hurricane was still alive. She reached the main hangar and stopped. The ship was even more impressive in person. It filled the entire cavern, a mountain of metal and death. Its hull was black as space itself. Its weapons glowed with faint blue light, even in sleep mode. Captain Taiho was waiting for her. He was young, barely 30, but he had been trained for this moment his entire life. His family had guarded the Hurricane for 3 generations. He knew every system, every weapon, every secret the ship held. "Admiral," he said, saluting. "Is it time?" Yuna handed him the orders. "Wake the Hurricane," she said. "New Bizen needs us. Humanity needs us. It is time to show the galaxy what we really are." Taiho read the orders. His hands did not shake. His eyes did not waver. He simply nodded and turned toward the ship. "Begin the awakening sequence," he said into his communicator. "All crew to stations. We deploy in 6 hours." Deep inside the Hurricane, lights began to flicker on. Engines that had slept for a century and a half began to warm. Weapons powered up with a sound like distant thunder. The ship was waking up, and the galaxy was about to learn that the quiet planet called Earth had teeth after all. The day Earth deployed its Hurricane-class battleship. Part 2. The arrival. Captain Taiho stood on the bridge of the Hurricane and watched his crew work. They moved with quiet efficiency, checking systems and running tests. Most of them were young, like him. Most of them had trained their whole lives for a moment they never thought would come. Now it was here, and they were ready. The bridge was massive. 20 stations lined the walls, each one manned by an expert in their field. Giant screens displayed information from every part of the ship. At the center of it all sat the captain's chair, raised slightly above the rest. Taiho had sat in that chair 1,000 times during training, but this was the first time it felt real. Lieutenant Minji approached him with a tablet in her hands. She was the ship's chief engineer, responsible for keeping the Hurricane running. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes were sharp with focus. "All systems are online, Captain," she reported. "The engines are running at 92% efficiency. Weapons are charged and ready. Life support is stable. Only 92%? Taiho asked. Minji shrugged. "The ship has been sleeping for 150 years. I am surprised it works at all. Give me a few hours, and I will get it higher." Taiho nodded. 92% would be enough. It would have to be. Admiral Yuna's voice came through the communication system. She had stayed behind on the moon base to coordinate with Earth. "Hurricane, you are cleared for launch. May the stars guide you home." "Understood, Admiral," Taiho replied. He looked at his helmsman, a quiet man named Dongwu. "Take us out." Nice and slow. The Hurricane began to move. Its engines roared to life with a sound that shook the entire base. Rock and dust fell from the ceiling of the cavern. The massive doors above them opened slowly, revealing the black sky and the distant stars. The ship rose like a giant waking from sleep. It cleared the crater and floated above the moon's surface. Below, Taiho could see the secret base shrinking to a tiny dot. Above, he could see Earth, blue and green and beautiful. His home. The home he was fighting to protect. "Set course for New Bizen," he ordered. "Maximum hyperspace speed." Navigator Sungho worked his controls. "Course set, Captain. At maximum speed, we will arrive in 4 hours." 4 hours, Taiho repeated quietly. He thought about what was happening on New Bizen right now. 4 more hours of bombing. 4 more hours of death. He wished they could go faster. The Hurricane's hyperspace drive activated. Space itself seemed to bend around the ship. Stars stretched into long lines of light. Then they were gone, racing through a tunnel of pure energy toward a world that needed saving. The journey was quiet. Taiho used the time to walk through his ship and talk to his crew. He wanted them to know their captain. He wanted them to trust him. In a few hours, he would ask them to do the impossible. They deserved to know the man giving the orders. In the engine room, he found Minji arguing with her team. They had gotten the efficiency up to 95% and were pushing for more. Taiho watched them work for a while, impressed by their skill and dedication. In the medical bay, Dr. Yejing was preparing for casualties. She had supplies for 1,000 wounded soldiers. Taiho hoped they would not need any of it, but he thanked her anyway. In the weapons bay, he found Commander Jisoo running tests on the gravity cans. She was a serious woman with short hair and cold eyes. She had studied weapons her entire life. She knew exactly what the Hurricane could do. "These weapons are incredible," she told Taiho. "I have never seen anything like them. They do not just destroy ships. They fold space around them. They crush them into nothing. It is almost beautiful. Let us hope they work as well in real combat," Taiho said. Jisoo smiled grimly. "They will work, Captain. I promise you that." The 4 hours passed slowly. Taiho returned to the bridge and waited. Around him, his crew prepared for battle. The atmosphere grew tense. Everyone knew what was coming. Everyone knew the odds. Exiting hyperspace in 1 minute, Sungho announced. Taiho sat down in his chair. He gripped the armrest tightly. His heart was beating fast, but his voice was calm when he spoke. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. We are about to engage the Velta Empire. Remember your training. Remember why we are here. We fight for New Bizon. We fight for Earth. We fight for humanity. The ship shuddered as it dropped out of hyperspace. The stars returned to normal. And there, floating in front of them, was New Busan. The planet was burning. From space, Taiho could see the fires covering the surface. Entire continents were glowing with the light of destruction. The oceans were dark with debris and ash. It was a nightmare made real. And surrounding the planet was the Velta fleet. 300 ships hung in orbit like a swarm of metal insects. They varied in size from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts. All of them were covered in weapons. All of them looked deadly. "They have detected us," announced Lieutenant Hada from the sensor station. "The entire fleet is turning toward our position." Taiho watched the enemy ships on his screen. They moved with the confidence of predators who had never known defeat. They had destroyed planets before. They had crushed entire civilizations. To them, one human ship was nothing. A communication came through. The Velta commander wanted to talk. Taiho accepted the call. The screen showed an alien face. The Velta were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 eyes. Their mouths were full of sharp teeth, and their voices sounded like grinding metal. This one wore elaborate armor covered in medals and symbols of rank. "Human vessel," the Velta commander said. "I am Fleet Admiral Torek. You have made a very foolish mistake coming here. Surrender now, and I will give you a quick death. Resist, and I will make you suffer." Taiho leaned forward in his chair. "Admiral Torek, I am Captain Taiho of the Earth vessel Hurricane. I have a counteroffer. Leave this system immediately. Release any prisoners you have taken, and never threaten humanity again." Torek laughed. The sound was ugly and cruel. "One ship? You threaten me with one ship? Human, I have destroyed entire fleets. Your pathetic vessel does not even deserve my attention." "Then let me get your attention," Taiho said calmly. He nodded to Jisoo. The Hurricane's weapons powered up. The blue glow along its hull grew brighter. Energy crackled across its surface like lightning. The gravity cannons hummed with power that should not exist. On the Velta flagship, sensors began to scream warnings. Officers shouted in confusion. The readings made no sense. One ship could not have that much power. One ship could not be that dangerous. Admiral Torek stared at the data in shock. For the first time in his long career, he felt something he had almost forgotten. Fear. "What is that ship?" he demanded. Taiho smiled. "This is the Hurricane, Admiral. It is the answer to every threat humanity has ever faced. It is the reason we never truly disarmed. And right now, it is very angry about what you did to New Bizon." He cut the communication. The screen went dark. "All weapons ready," Jisoo reported. "Targets locked." Taiho looked at his crew. They were scared. He could see it in their eyes. But they were also determined. They had trained for this. They were ready. "Fire," he said. The Hurricane unleashed its first attack. A beam of twisted gravity shot from the main cannon. It crossed the distance to the nearest Velta dreadnought in less than a second. When it hit, the dreadnought simply folded in on itself. Its hull crumpled like paper. Its crew had no time to scream. In an instant, a ship that had taken 10 years to build became a ball of crushed metal the size of a car. The Velta fleet froze. Every ship, every commander, every soldier stared in disbelief at what had just happened. That dreadnought had been the pride of their navy. It had survived 100 battles, and it had been destroyed in a heartbeat. "Fire again," Taiho ordered. Another beam. Another dreadnought destroyed. Then another. Then 3 more at once. The Velta fleet finally reacted. They opened fire with everything they had. Thousands of missiles and energy beams streaked toward the Hurricane. The space around the ship turned into a storm of destruction. But the hurricane had shields unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The attack splashed against them like water against rock. The ship did not even shake. "Shields at 98%, Minji reported. "They cannot hurt us, Captain." Taiho nodded slowly. He had hoped for this, but part of him had not truly believed it until now. The hurricane was everything his ancestors had promised. It was unstoppable. It was unstoppable. "Continue firing," he ordered. "Priority targets are the dreadnoughts and carriers. Leave the smaller ships for later." The gravity cannons sang their deadly song. Ship after ship fell to the hurricane's power. The Velta fleet scattered in panic. Their formations broke apart. Their coordination failed. They had never faced an enemy they could not hurt. They did not know how to fight. Admiral Tarek watched his fleet die around him. His 4 eyes were wide with terror. He had lived for 200 years. He had conquered a dozen worlds. And now he was facing something that made all his victories meaningless. "What have the humans done?" he whispered. "What have they created?" On the bridge of the hurricane, Captain Taiho watched the destruction with grim satisfaction. He thought about New Bizen below. He thought about the people who had died. He thought about the ones who might still be alive. This was just the beginning. The storm was here, and it would not stop until justice was done.